Welcome back to part 2 of the Empire of Man tier list, and this is part 2, so if you haven't seen part 1 yet, I highly recommend doing so. The card is just above, and if you go through that, it's not just going to give you the placings and why they're there, there will be some great insight as to the way you can follow Lord skills, combine technologies and combinations with other units, buffs and prayers that will give you the best results and will probably improve your gameplay. So don't just treat it as a tier list, treat it as a experience, because it will also walk you through tiers 1 all the way up to tier 5, giving you the experience of your campaign. So a lot of time goes into it, I hope it does show. And let's get started with part 2 today, and this is the Empire faction specific units. So the layout of this video is we're going to go over each of the elected counties, how you can manage them, and what you should do with this unit and how it does rank. Just a quick overview of how these state troops work. Every single county has a capital. If you control that capital, you can place an elected count in place of there. That guy will get a unique weapon as well as some nice buffs. But also having him here will allow you to recruit the state troop, and these are excellent. You can hire these anywhere, anytime. Basically gives the Empire a second round of Regiments of Renown, units that can be hired from absolutely anywhere. They are better than the standard versions, and unlike the Regiments of Renown, they can actually rank up. As soon as you hire one, a 15 turn counter will burn down, and then you can hire another one. So the better ones that I mentioned here, you will want to hire these as soon as you can. But there is nothing more satisfying than having your late game armies filled with these guys. There is just something prestigious about the Empire when you can get your armies filled with elite units, high in rank, and it's just glorious. Also, when you confederate an elected count through the Imperial Authority system, you will also gain any of these troops that exist in their armies. But also, if the countdown to hiring another one was only, say, 5 or 6 turns left, you will only incur that countdown left. So you don't recruit them and have to wait 15 turns. It will usually be much less, allowing you to field even more of these guys. And this is another reason why it's preferable to confederate the lords rather than attack them. All the tiers are explained in the previous video, so I won't go over that again, and also this will be Reichland centric. They are the best starting faction for the Empire, and you can apply most of this to Solond if you do choose to start with Balthasar Gelt. But quickly on Reichland, they do have a unique unit in all but name, and that is the Reiksguard. They're unique cavalry, and it can only be hired from a tier 3 building. It is expensive to do, but I highly recommend only put them in Karl Franz's army. So build the building, it does cost 6,000 gold, hire 3 Reiksguard, which will mean he will have 4 in total in his army. Build the units, destroy the building, and then replace it for economy or whatever else you would like. Typically a B tier unit, under Karl Franz, thanks to the unique buffs he gives them, they become an A tier unit. But now let's look at some actual unique characters in the form of Markus Wulfart's special friends group, 4 unique heroes that you can get in his campaign, but also we have started this time as Solon, as Balthasar Gelt, and we've confederated them, which is another way that you can get them, and they're immortal, so as long as Wulfart lives long enough, you should be able to confederate him late in the game. Just sail a hero over, meet him, and late enough in the campaign, when you see these guys in his army, just confederate him. Now the first one is Roderick, and he's just a paladin. He's alright, he has decent melee defense, which means he'll be able to hold the line, which is something you do need. He will be better in Markus Wulfart's campaign because he gives you more experience for fighting lizards. Most importantly, he has experienced plunderer, which will give you an extra post-battle loot boost of about 5%, so yeah, pretty good hero. This is nice and worth getting. Next up is the best Jorek Grimm, a master engineer that you can have in your Empire armies. That's right, the engineer that will boost your vaunted artillery. You can basically get and use ballistics calibration on, one of the best dwarven abilities in any of your armies. Any inaccuracy issues you had with Hellstorm rocket batteries, well, you can wave those goodbye thanks to this ability, but he also gives you a buff faction-wide to trade. Absolutely S tier, you just need to get him back home. Next up we have Hertwig, and he is a basically souped up witch hunter. He's quite fun to use. He has wicked buffs versus anything undead. Plus 5 melee defense means that he actually is quite competent, at least in the early stages. You'll find him less useful if you do confederate him, but he also has Sigma's Will, which means he can reduce the local corruption very well, but witch hunters just really aren't the best type of heroes, so he's only falling under B tier. Last and certainly not least is the mighty Kalara, your own wood elf captain, and she is awesome. Given the Empire thrive through area of effect buffs thanks to their captains, their priests, this is just another character you use in the exact same way. Boosting your missile damage by 15% is awesome. Her personal trait will boost the movement movement range of your army by another 10%, and that also stacks with your Master Engineer, who will give them a further boost. So your army will just go leaps and bounds. She also has the ability to reduce the attrition you take and will just protect you from more ambushes, which is definitely good as Markus because you will fight some Skaven. So with that out of the way, let's now get into the unique elect account state troops. Now, not all are created equal, and you should absolutely not build your play purely around getting these, but you should keep in mind that when you do capture one of these counties, it will give you this particular unit. Now, I've taken the time to draw up this map on the right hand side. All this and more can be found in the Empire Campaign Mastery Guide, which will be coming out next week. I've just needed a bit more time to do it. Sorry guys, I hope it will be worth it. But we're going to go through each of the elected counties and the way you should also navigate them through your campaign, because you need to balance the diplomacy between them, their survivability, and the threats that will destroy them. So let's start off with Humble Reichland, your starting province if you start with Karl, and they have the Carroburg Greatswords. So Greatswords, they're a decent unit. They're only tier 3 and they carry an armor piercing greatsword with anti-infantry, so they're pretty damn good overall at what they do. But in the late game, the Empire do suffer with being a stock standard medieval faction. If you're rich, you're riding a horse, and your poorer man of arms tend to be what comprise your infantry. But the greatswords are as good as they do come, and the Carroburg swordsman has an aura of effect which will boost the leadership and melee attack of the units around them. Now, is this something you need to get if you didn't start with Reichland? Absolutely not, but they're worth definitely having in Karl Franz's army. The moment that your 15 turn counter ticks over, make sure you get 2 of these in Karl Franz's armies. They are a very good line holder. If you have Demigryph Knights, they can pile in and they will gain the benefit of the aura on this unit. If you follow Karl Franz's tree and buff greatswords, which I recommend you do, they will attack at an A tier level, but for everyone else, they are just a B tier unit. Good armor, just not that great against large, which can be the bigger issue for the Empire. Even not behind Karl Franz, this is still an excellent unit to hire in a pinch and will certainly build up the front line with that area of effect aura. But a unit that needs no extra buffs to become amazing is our next entry, and that is the Borderman, the Outrider Grenade Launcher State variant. Just a quick reminder guys, if you are enjoying the video, please consider liking and subscribing, it really helps out. Ask any question in the comments, I answer everything, and if you'd like to talk strategy, feel free to join the Discord. Cheers. And this is obtained by taking Marienburg. This is going to be a later game concern for you if you do play as Balthasar Gelt, but Karl Franz, this should be the very first one you obtain. Besides your homeland of Altdorf, this is the first major county you should look to take, and that's for 2 reasons. Well, first of all, if you take too long, it can get taken over by Bretonnia, and you do not want war with Bretonnia. If they do take this first, it's not worth starting war just to get this unit, but you can easily circumvent this by taking Marienburg. Now, the regular Outrider of Grenade Launchers is already an A tier unit, and this upgraded version is S tier. The rider and horse are exactly the same, the only difference being the shells they fire have a far more deadly, more armor piercing impact, and these will just stand up to even mid to late tier infantry. If you can get around the flank, unload a volley of these and you will just see absolutely smash the back line. I cannot emphasize how useful this unit is. In early or mid game, it is just a powerhouse and it will just attach and deliver value to any army. Marienburg is a wealthy province and we're taking on its own merits, made even sweeter by obtaining this unit. And don't worry about the rest of the Wastelands province, just take Marienburg, gift back those other holdings to Nordland. And on the topic of Nordland, it is a neighbouring province, and when you gift these back, you will empower them, allowing you to increase your fealty as well as their military strength. You will eventually have the chance to confederate with Nordland, but this is one faction in the north you should absolutely keep as an ally until the very late game. The reason being is Norscan raids will continually come down here. The worst thing about confederating is it gives so many more factions eyes on you. They can all see you and they can all plot to destroy you because by design their interests are aligned and benefited by attacking you. So stay small and contained by not confederating along these lengthy borders, but most of all they will do the fighting for you. So along this coastline, gift as much as you can to Nordland so they can spend their time fighting the Norscans and not spread you thin in the process. Whilst Nordland will be one of the last elected counts you confederate, they are certainly worth doing so because their halberdier is an excellent unit. Since the Empire infantry typically typically lack really great discipline or training, having state troops like this really does plug that hole. These guys are excellent without the typical need of lord skills or battle prayers to boost this unit up. They have perfect vigor, meaning they will stand there and keep on hacking away until they down whatever they're downing. Now they do have charged defense versus everything, but you can give that to all halberdiers through technology, so it's not that special. Having one or more of these in any army will only benefit your line holding. They get a slight buff to leadership, and for what it's worth, they can fight in puddles or waist deep water without having any penalties. Hey, it's something. You weren't going to rush this unit anyway. Well, you can, but I promise you it will really slow down your campaign. Focus over here, take out Kazarek One Eye. As soon as you do, Midland will be much stronger for it. The other major county that you should really specialize in gifting back provinces and not really be too interested in a very short-term confederation is Midland, and you'll want to get these guys, I guess, sooner than later, but the pressing issues of the day will typically mean that your front will probably be towards more of the south than going north, so gifting settlements back to these guys after you've gotten rid of Kazarek One Eye and after you've removed Festus the Leech Lord will probably go a long way. They don't start with that high fealty, so it'll take a while to get these guys on side anyway. If you manage to get a hold of the Midland capital, you will gain the Swords of Ulric, and like all of the other infantry state troops, they are definitely worth getting because they just do that essential frontline holding a little bit better. The basic swordsmen, they're not really that special, just a bronze shield, but they do have frenzy, but this is a percentage based buff, and 10% of something that's not that great isn't going to give you something that's that much better. However, this will stack with your other bonuses quite nice. They also have fear, so they can help rout and not be routed as easy. Plus, confederating will give you porous Todbringer. Just a quick note, do not resurrect dead elect accounts unless you're sure that you can gift several holdings to them and build them up that way. Done properly, these guys will develop the province for you, but done incorrectly, they will just get wiped out. If you give them one small settlement, they die again. That will give you another hit to Imperial authority, which you don't want. But Nordland and Midland are two provinces I do recommend. Let those elected counts develop these holdings for you, let them fight the Norskins from the north so you can focus on other things. Now, one elected county you can never ever save is Hochland, simply because this is the first target of Festus the Leech Lord. It is essentially scripted that he will wipe these guys out immediately. Never raise these guys up again, just simply fight your way to Festus, take him down, and then take the capital. This fort is protected from the north by the mountains, is a fortress in itself, and most of all gets you one of the best state troops, the Gunderman Sunfires. The Empire handgunners are beloved because they are so cheap yet pack so much punch with the glorious gunfire, and these guys deliver that exact gunfire, but instead of 145 they have a range of 160. They have stalks so they can't be targeted as easily by enemy artillery, can close the range, unload, and if anyone does get too close, they are even trained very well in melee combat. They brandish a standard Empire sword and they actually know how to do it. Don't get them in melee combat, believe me. Empire gunpowder accuracy is normally very good, and this version is even better than the standard handgunner. Improved accuracy, and it can vanguard deploy, although I would typically keep it behind the lines in your regular formation. As soon as you can, get this fort, get this unit, and hire it wherever you can. This is one unit you want every 15 turns because it is that good. Whilst rushing into Hochland will land you a very defensible fortress, the same can't be said for Telebachland. Now, this is one of the easiest elected counts to confederate, but it is also one of the most dangerous. This long territory will really overextend you and bring you into a lot of conflict. Both the vampires and Dryka are two of the most dangerous foes near you. Yes, you do want to get these guys, but you will notice when you do confederate this territory, you will be balls to the wall busy with just challenges on all sides. So keep that in mind, and honestly take the authority first off, because there are plenty of great elect accounts that won't expose you in the same way this territory will. And that said though, when you do get this territory, the Sootson's Mortars are excellent. This unit does not do any friendly fire. We just have to appreciate for a moment how good that is. Great area of effect damage, and it is both magical and flaming on top of the regular variant. The direct shell of the mortar also deals more armor piercing damage. So it's not essential you have many of these in any army, but throwing one in there, particularly in the early to mid game, which is probably when you will get Telebachland, makes it a very nice addition and worthy of an A ranking. The other central province that will possibly overextend you is Stirland. Some campaigns they'll do very well, others they will get absolutely rolled and you'll be needing to keep them alive. I do recommend keeping them alive as they act as a good barrier between you and the vampires until you can get your own gunpowder up, which is really useful for taking them down. Stirland are a great and logical early to mid-game confederation, also because they give you the Stir River Patrol crossbowmen, an improved version of the crossbow. Its missiles will suppress as well as deal flaming damage, meaning it will do extra damage versus vampires, as well as slow down their approach. So this really is a hard counter for the enemy you are about to confront. So chucking one in your main army is going to do wonders for you. Similar to the Gunderman Sunfires, it has Vanguard deployment, which you probably should never use. Great unit, I love it. Now the next county we're going to talk about is Solent, which is the home county for Balthasar Gelt. Now, as Franz, I used to get this guy very early. He used to be the first one I'd confederate just because I wanted my hands on that juicy legendary lord. And let me tell you one thing, it's a bit of a trap simply because uncovering this province will uncover so much territory, which brings new hostiles in towards you. It will uncover the wood elves sooner than you want. If the wood elves turn on you, your campaign is essentially not over, but boy will it slow down. The best thing about Balthasar Gelt is that you can just leave him there in the background, and when you're ready, you can just give him some fealty, and then he will confederate quite easily. I definitely wouldn't recommend confederating before turn 20, and even around turn 30 might be a better time to get these guys. But just be aware of the problems of the territory uncovers. Also being Scrag the Slaughterer, once discovered, he really hates the Empire and he will start coming up and then raiding your lower provinces. But the temptation really is there because the Eldred's Guard Spearmen are just freaking amazing. They really are the state troop that you wish the Empire could just equip throughout the entire kingdom. Well, they're not trained any better, but boy did they actually get up their asses and put some decent equipment on some infantry. Going up to 70 armor and giving them a silver shield really does help. Now being able to deflect decent missiles, block a half decent hit, they can also have the ability to encourage nearby. This is another unit every 15 turns. Make sure you get another one because your infantry line holders don't get too much better than this. And on the topic of territory that overextends you and introduces you to a plethora of new threats, Averland. This will get you right onto the cusp of the vampire threat, and it is very easy to get this confederation nice and early. Keeping these guys alive will prevent the Imperial Authority hit if they do get wiped out, but they also never really seem to get ahead too much either. They're just kind of there, but their unique state troop is quite decent and particularly in the early game stands out as very strong. The Noble Sons Abroad, a variant of the Pistolier Missile Cavalry, is actually pretty damn good. This unit is one which is trained a ton better than the initial version. With around 25 melee attack and melee defense, they certainly deal a decent punch and have 30 charge bonus too. Their pistols enjoy a slight increase in damage, and other than that they operate just like your good old Pistoliers do, except this makes them far more potent as a cycle charger and a bit more useful when they do run out of ammo. Whilst it's not worth chasing the Confederation to land this unit, it still is very useful. Their lack of armor piercing does mean they will struggle a bit as the campaign goes on, but early on this unit is invaluable and I love it. Now finally, to get to Wissenland, which is basically the next door neighbour to Reichland, and you're probably wondering why it took me so long to get here. Now there are some builds where people will try to attack and conquer this province as soon as possible, despite the fact it will really hurt your Imperial Authority early on. The motivation behind this is Wissenland's capital Nuln is the gunpowder capital of the entire empire. There's a unique building here allowing you to construct Hellblast rocket batteries at only tier 3, and also the Empire State Troop is the Emperor's Wrath Steamtank. This is a significant improvement of the standard Steamtank, enjoying a big increase in firepower damage, burning the enemy on impact, and also having the ability to detonate and release steam, which will just scald the crap out of anyone around it. It is a very fun, very potent unit, but it is also still a steam tank. The strategy to rush Wissenland is not one I would recommend under any condition. It starts with very low fealty, so this will take a lot of dedication to get up, and it's not really that wealthy a province to warrant doing this. Capturing this will also give eyes on the Wood Elves, which you don't really want that early. There are far more cons to doing this than there is things to gain. Whilst getting heavy firepower sounds amazing on paper, you simply can't afford it, and you need nimble armies that can punch above their weight. By simply playing organically and getting a few handgunners on the field, you'll be able to achieve the same thing. Do not be surprised if Wissenland is one of the last territories you do inherit. By the time Reichland is tier 4 and can naturally produce Hellblaster polygons, it's around the time where your economy is best fitted and when your enemies will provide valid targets that will actually warrant this weapon. Just aim to get it by the late game, and if your infantry start letting you down, make sure a tank doesn't. Honestly, don't be surprised if you've managed to conquer Sylvania and eliminate Vlad von Carstein before you even get that Confederation. Speaking of which, capturing Sylvania will absolutely be something that organically happens, and at that point it will mark where you've really got control of your campaign. Now, the catch with this unit is by the time you get them, they really aren't as useful as they once would have been. The 110 armor is excellent, but the lack of armor piercing is something that will be notable. That said, to overcome this, they do have fear and terror. So fear imposes a -8 leadership, and then tower routes them at 13 leadership. So this really does help them achieve their shock cavalry role. So whilst not an incredible unit, they will be able to achieve more than a standard knight by virtue of being able to break the enemy. Just choose when you land those charges. Now, once you've taken out Vlad von Carstein, the natural progression will be to move north into Ostermark, where you will find Draika. You want to keep her peaceful for as long as possible because boy is she dangerous. Like all Wood Elf conflicts, the reason you want to avoid them isn't so much of having to fight them, it means to uproot and remove them, you need to invade them in their own terrain, which, yes, that is dangerous and that is scary. Once you remove Vlad von Carstein, you should have no trouble dedicating yourself to removing her. Installing an elector count at the capital of Ostermark will give you the Knights of Everlasting Light, and I personally really love this unit. The Knights of Everlasting Light have a -5 melee attack aura, blinding the enemy, they sport a silver shield, and give magic attacks, so they're actually very effective at the undead. If for some reason you take this before you go down and take out Vlad, this will help you against any ethereal units they have. Another state troop that's very nice, but again it's going to be a bit dated by the time you get it. And finally, the most northern province, Ostland, and the one you absolutely have the least chance of saving. You'll notice that these far territories here, these counts will be long wiped out. Never resurrect these guys, it's a waste of time. Don't just create political rivals for the sake of it, just take these and then build them up yourself. You'll find you collect the counties in the order that just kind of happen. That's one reason why this is such a fun and dynamic campaign, but when you do get Ostland, you will get a hold of the Stubborn Bulls. They are Empire Knights with Greatswords. That's right, the 110 armor that you enjoy on a knight, charging in with a two-handed Greatsword. Do not ask me how that works, but the wealth of the Empire Cavalry on full display here. The sword these guys wield is an absolute monster and makes those lowly Greatsword wielders feel very poor by comparison. They deal awesome armor piercing damage. By this point in the game, you'll be fighting a lot of high tier armored infantry, a lot of them sporting great weapons which will also have armor piercing. Halberdiers also being a common threat means that these guys have a lot to be scared of. Their stats are more than serviceable, and whilst this unit won't win any battles by itself, it's certainly nice to have, and let's just face it, it's pretty damn cool. You've probably noticed the theme here that the easternmost counties all have various knight variants and none of them are really that important. The same rule of thumb kind of goes across all of these units. Some of them, like the spears or the handgunners, you'll want to hire these whenever and wherever you can. The eastern counties and the knights that they provide, you won't need them in every single army, but they can also provide a decent crisis unit. If you're ever in a pinch, you can raise all of your regiments of renown as well as any state troops you have on hand. The Empire are just incredibly useful here, levying good armies of high tier troops. If you need to know more about the original versions, go check out the original tier list, and to learn basic steps that will take you from beginner to novice and novice to legendary in a single video, the Empire Campaign Mastery Guide is coming out, and then a subsequent video giving you formations you can use with each lord at each stage of the game. I hope this has been useful. Please like, sub, share with a mate. This is Elven Plot Armor. I'll see you next time.